Hello everyone, this is Zeeebo and welcome to this AFK journey video. So pardon me if I need to pause in the middle because my throat's not feeling very well, so that's why today there's only 2 videos up. But for today's video, we are going to talk about artifacts, more specifically artifacts in Arena. So I'll start by talking about the lesser used ones, then I'll talk about the rest of the artifact, as well as when you want to use them, and then I'm going to showcase like 2 runs on my account of these artifacts to let you guys see why certain artifacts are not so good and why certain artifacts are better. So I'll start with the Awakening Spell, right, as well as the Blazing Spell. So these two, they are the most underutilized artifacts, and if you take a look at their stats distribution, right, it's quite similar. So Blazing Spell is physical magical defense with defense penetration, and Awakening Spell is physical magical defense and attack. So they have this stat line where they want to be a little bit defensive while giving you a little bit of offensive power. So this stats distribution in Arena, I'll say, is kind of awkward because defensively, right, there's just so many monsters out there that do crazy combo shenanigans that I think even you have a lot of defense, right, it's not going to help you survive that much better. So you did rather have more offensive firepower, or you did rather have more control on your enemy, so you slow them down, right? So that's where I think the stat line for these 2 artifacts are not particularly good for this game mode. And if you talk about their abilities, right, so Awakening Spell's ability is a heal every 10 seconds, 10% max HP per ally, right? For 4 allies every 10 seconds is decent, right, in a very slow pace setting. But I think if the cooldown was a little bit shorter, maybe 8 seconds or maybe 7 seconds, right, you get more heal cycles in, you get your heal cycles faster, this artifact could be a little bit better. But right now I think it's just too slow, and even if you did get the heals off, right, it's not sufficient because like 10% max HP is so minimal. Like units like Hailwind, units like Smokey, units like Damien, they heal way more and they heal faster. So you did rather just have like an offensive artifact which gives haste, or an artifact which gives attack speed, so your healers can do their healing jobs faster and better, which sort of replaces what Awakening Spell wants to do. So that's why you guys can see why Awakening Spell is very underutilized. And then for Blazing Spell's case, I think it's quite similar in the sense this artifact wants to snipe off right, weakened targets. But number one, it's not so easy to snipe off weakened targets in a very general comp. So unless you're running a full assassin offense comp, then that could be one way you can use this, because you want to snipe off targets as quickly as possible. So the additional fireball pew to bring down the weakest enemy is something you guys can consider. But I honestly don't see a lot of use. I only see it used like maybe a few times because it's an artifact that has defensive stats, but it wants to snipe off key targets. So what I'll say is, if now instead of all these defensive stats, they give us a little bit of attack and a little bit of haste or a little bit of attack speed, I think this Blazing Spell will be a lot better. Like the positioning of this artifact will be, I'll say, clearer. Right, it's used for sniping, it'll be used for mage team that likes to snipe people off, then I think you'll definitely see more use for these artifacts. But right now it's just, I'll say, like, what you want to do is not good enough. You did rather just use other artifacts that are more offensive by nature to give you the ability to snipe off key targets. And if you want more defensive capabilities, right, there are other artifacts that gives more haste as well as HP, which allows the healers or the defensive units to do what they want better. So yeah, Blazing Spell and Awakening Spell are just in very awkward position. Where I think the meta is not very suitable for them, and they are just artifacts out there that do what they do better. So that's for these 2 artifacts. Then next one, we talk about the defensive artifacts. So we have Iron Wall Spell as well as Confining Spell. So Confining Spell is the most used artifact in Arena because the ability to just restrict 2 enemies at the backline is insane, right? And the thing is, the cooldown is 10 seconds. So throughout the whole duration of the Arena runs, you will get at least, like, I'll say 7 or 8 confining spells in if you're able to draw out the battle. And on top of that, right, the duration is 2.5 seconds. So the two enemies that are controlled, they effectively has a 7.5 second interval where they can do something before they actually get confined again. So that is a very powerful controlling spell, especially if you're able to draw out the battlefront, right? So if your battle lasts for maybe like 30-40 seconds, you can easily get like 2 confines in right? So 2 or 3 confines in, right? Sometimes being able to confine like important carry units at the backline basically wins you the game. At the same time, because most of the time you won't put a carry on the front line, right? You won't really put your carry in a very risky position in the front or maybe in the middle of the pack, so you usually put the carries at the back line. So Confining Spell serves as a really powerful defensive artifact in a sense. It restricts the damage output of your enemies, right? And they have to reposition their unit if they want to maximize their unit's ability to prevent confining from happening on your backlines. So this is one of the most powerful and most consistently used. In fact, if you ask me, I'll say defensively, Confining Spell is the best defensive artifacts, because there's a little bit of RNG factor as well, because depending on how your enemies move, the 2 targets at the backline will shift positions, right? So sometimes it could be the carry, sometimes it could be the healer, and then if you know, sometimes RNG just lands on the correct target, you can just win the match from there, because being able to stop the healers from healing is crazy good. Being able to stop the attackers from attacking is also crazy good. So that's why Confining Spell is one of the best late game defensive artifacts for Arena per se. So for Iron Wall Spell, I think this is middle of the pack kind of artifacts. Like, you can definitely see some use for Iron Wall Spell because the defensive buff that this artifact provides on your front line is insane. Basically, your front line don't die. But the biggest issue with this artifact is that it only really buff 1 ally, right? So you have 4 other allies that doesn't get any sort of defensive buff, and the stat line of this Iron Wall Spell is haste plus vitality. So vitality is good enough, right? In certain situations where you're running multiple healers or multiple shielders, the combination of vitality and haste allows you to get the sustain going. But in most cases, because right now the meta is very heavily AoE based, as well as a lot of people just having ways to do AoE damage, that I think Iron Wall Spell is kind of weak in a sense, because it only provides the buff to 1 ally. If it provides the buff to maybe 2 ally, maybe 1 in front and 1 at the back, I think this artifact will be higher in the tier in terms of usage. But it's a very niche artifact in certain situations where you attack an enemy and you want your tank to just soak up as much damage as possible while allowing your backline to do stuff. I think Iron Wall Spell is pretty insane. But in defensive side of things, I won't use Iron Wall Spell because it's not that, I'll say, like, good against the current meta, at least if your bracket is competitive enough. But if your bracket has no way to deal with all your backlines, if your bracket is still in a bracket where people are focusing on the front line and then ignoring the back line, then I think Iron Wall Spell can definitely be used. But in most cases, in the current meta versions, I think Iron Wall Spell is just a little bit underpowered, although there are certain cases where you can definitely jam in Iron Wall Spell and see insane effect out of it. So that is more on the offensive side of things. Then next one, we talk about the last 2 offensive artifacts. So we have Starshot Spell, one of the best artifacts in the game. In fact, I would say Starshot Spell is the best artifact because this artifact is good for content pushing. This artifact is good for Dream Realm, good for bossing, and it's also decently good for Arena in a sense. Like, the ability to just do true damage, the ability to just slow down the enemy's attack speed, as well as the ability to just do damage every 3 ultimate use is insane, because like, it's just additional source of damage. It allows you to snipe off key targets and allows you to debuff certain targets which, you know, could be very powerful if you let their attack speed sit still, right? And the stat line for this artifact is just nice in a sweet spot. It offers haste, which is offensive, while offering a little bit of HP, which allows your team to survive a little bit longer to do what they want sometimes. But I think the biggest bane of using Starshot Spell is that Confining Spell is a very commonly used artifact, so it sort of limits the full potential of Starshot Spell, because Confining Spell basically makes 2 units at the backline not being able to do anything. So it means that only 3 of your units can use their ultimates fast enough. And yes, you do get the downtime of the confining ability where your 2 backline units can use their skills, but then if your enemy is able to slow you down and do what they want to do first, then you lose the priority advantage in Arena per se. So Starshot Spell is definitely usable. It's really dependent on the situation as well as the team builds of your enemies. But I will say this, if the opponent is not using Confining Spell, I think you can definitely consider using Starshot Spell on the offense, because I've tried it myself. I think it's really good, and more people should try it, right? So this one is definitely one of the best artifacts in the game. Not the best in the Arena, but definitely usable in different situations based on your own like brackets itself. So lastly, we have enlightening spell. So there's actually a video idea for me to talk about this enlightening spell on a separate video, so I'm just going to briefly glance through the abilities. So enlightening spell provides a massive attack boost on one of the rearmost ally unit and allows the ally to gain control immunity. So the stat line that this artifact provides is attack speed and HP, so very similar to Starshot spell, gives you a little bit of survival while giving you attack speed buff, which is offensive by nature. So this is one of the artifact which is an answer to confining spell, because for Confining Spell, it is to control 2 backline units, and for Enlightening Spell, one of your units at the backline cannot be controlled. So they will eat up the Confining ability, but they won't be controlled. So for that 20 seconds of the buff, right, when you get it to +10, your backline ally, right, they won't, or rather only one of your backline will get controlled. So that one ally which has this Enlightening buff is able to do what it wants. So if your I'll say like if your strategy is to bring down your enemies as fast as possible with your backline carry, this is one of the strongest artifact you can use on the offensive side of things. Even defensively, I think putting this artifact on certain units such as Iron, such as Heroine, such as like your offensive carries can be pretty good as well. So enlightening spell is an offensive artifact by nature, but because it's a sort of direct counter to confining spell, you can definitely run it. And the ability to just do things faster with the bonus attack speed as well as the control immunity to make sure that your core unit doesn't get controlled, right, is insanely powerful. So in the late game, I'll say 2 of the most used artifacts will be confining spell as well as enlightening spell, because they are the most consistent, they are the most in line with the current meta, and they sort of have this countering each other, I'll say like mentality inside it. So sometimes you will see some people running Starshot spell on the defense. I think it's also okay. So these are the big trees in arena. Sometimes I'll see some Iron Wall spells, but I don't think Iron Wall spell is that good if your enemy knows how to use AoE units. So there's that, but this tree will be the most commonly used. And I'll say the strongest is definitely Confining Spell as an overall general power level in terms of the artifacts power level rating for arena specifically. So this one, the stats that it provides is not the highest. HP is only 7.8, and then you get like 6.6% attack, but the ability is insanely good. So that's why Confining Spell is the one of the strongest. And then Enlightening is decent stats while providing the counter to Confining Spells in certain situations, as well as the ability to just push out your stuff faster, makes it a really solid artifact as well. Then we have the last one, which is Starshot spell. So this is, I'll say, like maybe the third compared to the other 2. So Starshot spell is really good in a sense. If you can do what it does in Dream Realm, it's insanely powerful, and at the same time, in general, right, the stats that it provides is just in a sweet spot where you do a little bit of offense while surviving well enough. So that's for the different artifacts rating. So with that, right, I'm going to go into my arena runs. Right, so my Heroine is using the healing, and you guys can see, right, with Heroine's healing, like it basically out heals the awakening spell. So if you already have Heroine, you don't want to use awakening spell, because all you want to do is give your Heroines the ability to use their ultimate or skills faster. So you did rather use the other artifacts such as Starshot spell or your enlightening spell or your Iron Wall spell, which provides haste. So you guys can see, right, the Starshot spell just does so much damage. And yes, being defensive is good, right? But the thing is, there's no way for the enemy to touch my OD, so OD is just able to run wild freely, so I'm able to win from there. So this showcase to you the weakness of Enlightening Spell. I think it's a good artifact defensively, but the numbers are not good enough, and it's not the, I'll say like the most optimal artifacts to use in arena specifically. Okay, so this guy is using Starshot spell. Very, very good. Okay, so I can use this guy as a demonstration to show the power of Confining Spell. So Starshot spell is one of the best artifacts in game. I think most of you guys should know by now. You probably have used Starshot spell in arena before. You have used Starshot spell in Dream Realm, right? PvE, in Trial of Abyss. So it's a very powerful artifact. But in arena per se, because Confining Spell is really good here, it is sort of countered by Confining Spell. So without further ado, I'm going to showcase to you guys what I mean by that. So I think I'm going to stall long enough for Skalita to do her stuff. So let's just do this. Okay, so this guy is even higher level than me, by the way. So over here, right, it pulls everybody together. Okay. Okay, so my healers and like my unit starts to come in. So he did get his Starshot spell in, and then Rowan starts to use the ultimate. Harry starts to heal up. Okay, Damien resummons again because it passed away just now. And as you guys can see, right, the Confining Spell is able to control 2 of the units in the back line, which slows down the spell casting for Starshot spell. And by the time your units recover from the stun, right, I already get my units to do what they want to do. So this guy is running a decently meta team with the Iron Carol combo while running Confining Spell. So this will probably be one of the most common setup that you guys will see in Arena specifically. But I'm going to showcase how enlightening spell can help you counter this sort of situation, because his goal is to burst you down. I just need to sustain long enough. So I'm going to use my Z Store team and then battle from there. So I'll save another video to explain the rationale for Z Store team, why this team is called Z Store team and why this team is actually really powerful. So unfortunately, Iron pulls my granny inside and then she's stuck in a very awkward position, but she walks out herself. So because Heron is not controlled, right, she's able to provide the heal and get her ultimate off fast enough. And then this buys me enough time for Skalita to calm down. And then as you guys can see from here, yes, the speed buff is gone, but I'm able to do what I want to do and I'm able to win the match from there. So enlightening spell is one way you can counter Confining Spell for sure, because basically you want to do what you want to do within that 20 seconds where your units have the enlightening spell. Maybe I'll just add in one more run, okay, for you guys to see like the power of enlightening spell. Shakir, very awkward. Okay, but anyway, I think this should be fine. This is a double store comp. Yeah, I'll use OD, I guess. Yeah, I'll use OD. Okay, gonna do this. I think should be fine. Okay, should be fine. Okay, so here my OD is getting the buff. Okay, quickly throws down the ultimate. Hopefully we remove the torrent. Yeah, we managed to remove the torrent before the torrent does anything. Very good. Okay, Herwin got confined. He throws down the ultimate. So within that duration where I was able to put the buff on OD, right, he was able to do massive damage, and as you guys can see, the buff is gone. So enlightening spell and confining spell has this counter and being countered mechanic. So you kind of want to kill the enemy as fast as possible or do what you want as fast as possible when the buff is active. But at the same time, if the buff is not active, right, then this is what will happen. So this is the case where the buff went down and then I failed in what I want to do. But whoa, I might have a chance there. Wow. Okay, unfortunately I lost. Yeah, wait, Brian is getting bursted now. Oh wow. Oh wait, I lost. Yeah, because the enemy managed to remove my Damien card. Okay, so that's pretty much it for this video, right? Pretty much showcase like some of the more commonly used artifacts. To conclude this video, right, I'll say the most commonly used ones are Confining Spell, Enlightening Spell, as well as Starshot Spell. So Iron Wall Spell sees some use from time to time. You can definitely use it, and if your team is able to build around it, feel free to try to experiment with it as well. But in general, you will see most of this, and you sometimes will see people using this to counter this to a certain extent, and then sometimes you will get Starshot Spell, which is just in general a very good artifact, right, both offensively and defensively by nature. So that's it for this video. Hopefully it's helpful as usual. Thank you very much for tuning in. Do remember to like and subscribe to see more. I'll see you guys again in my next video. Bye guys.